God's peace be upon you, beloved. I hope you're doing all right. Let's talk about Superman. No spoilers. All right, let me bring it up a little bit closer for you. All right, so we have Superman, African spirituality, and political parallels. All right, so Kal-El is Superman's given name from his home on Krypton. Ka means life force in the Egyptian or Kemetic tongue. El means God. It's the root word for God in the Semitic languages. Remember, the Semitic lands extend from northwest to North Africa to northeast Africa, extending up to the Arabian Peninsula and as far north as Turkey. All right, these are what we call the Semitic lands, where the Hebrews and the Israelites traversed and their message and their theology spread too. All right, so El means God. So we've heard El in the context of El Elyon, the Most High God, or El Shaddai, the Most High God. Elohim, which is said in Genesis 1:1. God, the word God that is used in Genesis 1:1 is actually Elohim, which is the plural version of God, not meaning multiple gods, but speaking of the entire, is called the sovereign plural. In other words, the entirety of God, all existence, because all that exists is God. All of existence, the totality of God is speaking at the same time. That's what this plural of God is, Elohim. All right, so we see spirit God or life force God as the name of Superman, which directly translates to son of El, directly, or son of God, or sun of God. All right, or the spirit of God. All right, so Kal-El, Superman, represents the Christ consciousness that is sent to earth. All right? All right, so Superman represents the very best of us, the highest submission to virtue, truth, and justice. Even though he has these superpowers, he's grounded in his humanity, even though he's not human. That's one of the most powerful dichotomies within the whole Superman pantheon in comics is that he's so powerful yet so grounded in justice, in virtue, in morality, in what makes him human. All right? So let's take it a step further. African spirituality actually told a similar story of a similar powerful being. All right? So Ra, the god of the sun, creation and order, he fights Apophis, which represents chaos, destruction, disorder. And every time, so the way that the Egyptians would explain the rising and the setting of the sun was by telling this story about Ra and his fight with Apophis. Ra would reign throughout the 12 hours of daylight, but then at nighttime, he would go into the underworld and would have to pass through 12 gates while fighting Apophis. All right. And every morning when the sun rose, it symbolized Ra's victory over Apophis. Chaos, ego, deception, control, disorder. Shango is of the West African Yoruba tradition. Shango is regarded as one of the most powerful Orishas, god of thunder, god of lightning, super strength. He was a warrior king. He too fought for injustice. He too had a moral compass and was revered amongst all the Orishas and humanity as the savior Orisha, the one that would fight for the little, for the most vulnerable. Okay, so he had that similar Superman archetype going on there. Both Ra and Shango represent this eternal struggle. Ancient African people had an understanding that there's this ongoing struggle between order and chaos, between life and death, between what's right and what's wrong. So what we see now is a telling and retelling of a similar archetype that has existed since the beginning of time. All right? Light, dark, yin, yang. It's always constantly warring against each other because the two are fighting for balance. All right, so let's take it a step further. Superman represents Christ consciousness. All right, the evolved nature of us at our best, fighting for what is right, selfless, willing to give their lives for the greater good, the prototypical hero. All right, but I cannot be willing to sacrifice my life if I am not yielding to the consciousness of unconditional love, which is what Yeshua, also known as Jesus, ascribed to. It is Yeshua's story, his life, that shows us the very meaning of what it means to unconditionally love. All right, so we have a telling and a retelling throughout different time periods of the same archetype: life versus death, order versus chaos, good versus evil. And this is not an outward struggle, beloved. It is an inward struggle that gets projected into the outer reality. All right, let's keep going. Lex Luthor represents the ego, deception, and control. Lex Luthor represents the worst side of us, of our psyche, that does not like being held accountable. The reason why Superman is such a big threat to Lex Luthor is because it is a check and balance that he has no control of. All right? People who subscribe to a Lex Luthorian, I just made that up, ideology, are people who bow before the god of control, the god of money, the god of status. All right? This is idolatry, the idolaters that look to control and money and influence and what they can do to give them power, all right? To give them their sense of happiness. They go against the law of God, all right? And so Lex Luthor represents this constant warring against the Christ consciousness, the ego that is fighting against the virtue that lives within us all. This is an outward telling of an inward struggle within all of us. We are all fighting for balance. We are all fighting to keep our ego under subjection, under what is right. Okay? So I'm going to take it a step further. Lex Luthor within the common American structure represents white supremacy. Okay? White supremacy against the people of the sun. All right? Superman is powered by the sun, rejuvenated by the sun, gets his powers from the sun. And this is not a supremacy message here, beloved. This is telling you the truth. White supremacy is less about racial superiority and more about the fear of racial inferiority. Because the truth is, beloved, is that black and brown people have been marginalized for centuries, for millennia. It is black and brown bodies, their organs that are sold on the black market. There is an infatuation with us, but a disdain for us all at the same time. Let's take it a step further. So Superman is the prophetic retelling of the journey of the self, discovery, remembrance, ego death, and rebirth. The light of the world, the Savior, the provision of God to provide these archetypes, these examples of what it means to be the best that you can be in spite of the resistance of the ego, the deceivers, those who wish to control. It is a telling and retelling. This is what Superman does for us. It reminds us that good always triumphs evil. It reminds us that the God in us is better than the devil that is within them.